Hello everyone, it's Minoxen bringing you another expert replay. This time it's Soultree with a play for free deck, kind of following what Badken had started. Hey, he didn't have a Soultree replay up and available, so I figured I would do it. I did this in 19 minutes and it was my first try, so I figured that was good enough. But first you organize your guys up here. You put those three there. It's just easier if you don't want to have to shuffle men around. You just pull those two that were standing there, tell them to go up to those last two, and then the ones that were over by Viridia, you tell them to go up into that fourth section there. I focus on the slaver, and then I have the master archers peck on him for just a second before running up here to get the power wells. I'm going to sit those right there. And then I've made a command group of those three right there, because those three can actually target the ranged units that are coming up in this next wave. And it's very important to off-target on those ranged units, because they will kill your Irish defenders if you're not careful. And I go ahead and target the archers there after missing the first time and running my defenders down. But you'll take and target each one of those ranged units there, and I bring the master archers from the orb. They're going to help by weakening that other group. Almost lose them, but luckily I didn't, because I need something to build my Stone of Torment with. I pulled another group of Irish defenders off the wall to help the other one, because it looked like he was going to lose some units, and I didn't want to have to use a Surge of Light on him to bring him back to full strength. But you run him back to the third parapet, and then whenever she says now, that's when you go ahead and send your units forward. And also, whenever she said prepare yourself, that's when you start constructing your orb. That's you can finish your orb in time by the time they get frozen, and there won't be any trouble. Whereas if you build it before then, like right after the second wave, your orb will fire and get the attention of this big wave, and they'll all go up there and destroy your power wells, and it's just a bunch of not so much fun. But my Stone of Torment is not upgraded at all, and that's not going to affect it. It does the job just fine. I'm using the Irish defenders and my master archer to take out those units that aren't getting hit by the Stone of Torment. There's the slaver I weakened down, and then I go ahead and move on to the whisperer. And I kill the whisperer, and right as I'm going to the slaver, the Stone of Torment snags it. Luckily I didn't run in there. But then you run your defenders over to this tower that's available, and you go ahead and select your most wounded units to stand next to it as close as possible, and they will heal because they're standing next to a friendly structure. And as soon as this gets done killing those, I'm going to construct my next orb, which is going to be a nature orb for Swamp Drake. Sack that. There we go. Got some more void coming in. Those guys are healing up nice. One of them was really hurt, so it's going to take him a little bit longer. Once I have my nature orb, I'm going to bring in Swamp Drake and use him to fly around back behind and take out units so they don't do as much damage to Viridia, and it speeds up the process. I'm going to summon in two of those. They fly back, and they're going to take out the Rage Flame back there first. I'm focus firing with my Irish defenders on one unit at a time. That's very important, because if you don't, you'll have multiple units becoming thawed, and if they become thawed, then you're going to have twice the damage incoming on you. Fly the Swamp Drakes around. Go ahead and move the defenders forward to the next location. Take out this Rage Flame. Then I'm going to take out the Stone Warriors as well. They're moving on down the hill. Summoning another Swamp Drake. I wasn't sure how many I was going to need for this attack. I usually figured that, you know, they usually have a couple of mutating frenzies in the other replays, so I decided to go with Swamp Drakes this time because I didn't throw mutating frenzies in. But I also like Swamp Drake because of their crowd control ability, and in Play for Free you have no crowd control abilities. So you use Swamp Drake's sleep ability here for 30 power. That worked out good. Two of them at least stayed sleeping. Take out the boss unit by focus firing. Then you get to take everyone else using Surge of Light to keep everyone up and fighting. I go ahead and let one of the Swamp Drakes die here, because I'm going to be sacrificing it anyways for the Void. Summon in my Tremor, and send him immediately over to grab my power well, because the faster you can get the power well built, that's faster that you have power coming in. Then I go get the gold. And a trimmer is a large enough unit and has enough HP that he can out-heal Viridia's damage if you place him correctly with his standing next to an allied building. And then I get his spacing off just a little bit to begin with here. She's going to end up zapping my power well once, which is important to watch. You got to make sure that you got your unit standing exactly right. Oh, and I also built the wrong orb to begin with out of habit. I usually build my shadow orb last, but I had forgotten that I built it out of order so I could have Stone of Torment. And had to sack this shadow orb. Luckily, I didn't get completely built, so I didn't lose all of my power.
Your forces are under attack.
Brought back in the fire orb, and the fire orb I'm going to use for Firebomb and Lava Field. That's really only two spells or things that I use from the fire grouping. But the Firebomb is to keep the units off of my Tempests. They're going to be taking out that big attack wave that comes up. I'm also going to summon in a Rifle Cultist, and I'm going to use their special ability to try and take out some of them. I'm holding position on my Giant Worm, so he's like the Tempest and just defensive. And I missed a good portion of them with my Rifle Cultist, but it worked out. And my poor micromanagement skills show through there, and I accidentally leave a couple of my Tempests sitting in the Vile Blood.
This will allow us to weave a banishing spell. There will be another monument to the east, near the Twilight Infestation.
I'm done with Moon, so I go ahead and sack that Trimmer for some Void. Use Rifle Cultists again to take out the majority of the archers. And then I summoned in another Rifle Cultist thinking that I was going to do the same thing on the base. But ultimately I opted against that and got distracted with the Tempests and playing with those and my Giant Worm. I'm going to use Tempest and Giant Worm to finish the map here. I'm going to move the Tempest forward and take out that tower. Then I'm going to use the Giant Worm, soon to be Giant Worms, and fly those up and draw in more units for my Tempest to peck at. I'm going to get rid of the Twilight Horror and some of these units up here that spawn from this building. Draw those back. Just keeping close enough so that way they'll move up into range. Get paralyzed on accident here, but luckily he can't hit me. Then I'm going to fly and take out this big tower up here. And then being careful to watch out for the Twilight Will Sapper, because if you don't watch out for that Will Sapper, you're going to end up getting your dragons, or your worms, paralyzed permanently. So fly those around there carefully and take out the spawn building and the tower. Tree Fiends spawn, so I bring in some Rifle Cultists. I'm not that great of an aim with them, so I end up killing some of my own, but I take out the Tree Fiends, which is the important part. There we go. Uproot the Tempests and move those forward to the next step. I probably should have sacked those Rifle Cultists, but I, for some reason, just wasn't thinking about them. I'd kind of forgotten that I'd summoned them. And I was doing really well with the Giant Worms and Tempests, so you won't need those if you follow this example directly. Regrowth to keep the Giant Worms going, and then I'm going to run the Tempests down here closer to the main enemy group, and I'm going to throw a Regrowth down on them once I root them. Using Surge of Light on my Giant Worm to keep them going. Take out the Twilight Horror here so I don't get paralyzed again. I move on to the tower. Lava Field here. Using another Regrowth on these Tempests. Then I'm going to fly these Giant Worms into the Will Sapper's range, and it gets focused on them. So now it's paying attention to them, keeping them paralyzed. I run the Tempests up to grab my orb. Root them down. And I finish the map here. I go ahead and use Unholy Hero. Don't have to. It was just something I had, so I used it. Gonna uproot a Tempest and grab the gold, and that's the end of the map. Thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it informative. Take care.